So if you haven't already heard, in about the past 3 hours, President Donald Trump has just given an update as to when you can expect to see those $2,000 tariff dividend checks. He is saying that they are going to be on the way, and he gave a more specific time frame. Now, I've been keeping up to date with you on everything, but take a look here. Let's take a look at the headlines that have been coming out in the past couple of hours here. Today, November the 17th, Trump reveals when moderate income Americans can expect to get the $2,000 tariff dividend checks. Now, we had heard him say on Air Force One that it was not going to be by Christmas, by the holidays, that it was going to be in 2026. Now we have a more definite response from him. Take a look at this. Trump promises to send $2,000 tariff dividend checks probably the middle of next year, a little bit later than that possibly as well, he is saying. Here's another one that has come out as well with more updates. Trump says $2,000 rebate checks will come by mid-2026. The Republican president doubled down on his proposal on Monday today, even setting a timeline for the $2,000 rebates. So not only is he saying you're going to get checks, he's giving you a time frame as to when you can expect the checks. In addition to that, now this came out yesterday, and I shared this with you when we had heard Trump's $2,000 tariff check requires new law. Bessent says we've heard from the Treasury Secretary, who has confirmed that they're going to try to get this done. They are working away. We heard the White House say we are committed to $2,000 checks going out to the American people. However, they're saying they are working to get legislation pushed through. Treasury Secretary weighs in on the $2,000 tariff dividend checks. Could you get one? Well, we're hearing as of the past 3 hours ago today, Donald Trump is saying you're going to get one. Here's when you're going to get one. And you're going to get those $2,000 dividend rebate checks, tariff checks, whatever you want to call them. But he's saying we're bringing in so much money that we're going to send everybody a nice little $2,000 check. And then after that, we're going to pay down the debt. Man, let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you like the sound of that, put 2K in the comments or drop a 47 for support for Donald Trump. Let me know down below in the comments. Now, in addition to that, also, if you haven't done so yet, please take a second, hit that thumbs up like button. Helps out the channel a ton while we're live. We are live right now. It is currently 5:22 p.m. Central Standard Time, and it is November 17th, 2025. And in the past 3 hours, we heard from the president from the White House. I'm going to play for you the video footage, and he has given the time frame, saying 2026, you're going to get checks. And if you appreciate the live streams, the updates, hit that like button for me. And also, to stay up to date, it's totally free. Why not hit the subscribe button? I'll keep you up to speed as things roll out. As you know, as things have been happening, I'm hopping on, getting you the latest information. When we heard it from Kevin Hassett, Scott Bessent, Donald Trump, the White House, as we get more and more updates on these $2,000 checks, I'm giving you the latest breaking news. This coming out just 3 hours ago today from the White House. Going to play the video footage for you. So to stay up to date, subscribe, hit the like button if you appreciate it. And as always, all the articles that I'm going to be referencing that have come out in the past couple of hours, they're hyperlinked in the description. I cite all the sources, put it on the screen, read right from it so you can see it for yourself, and know and rest assured that this is the latest. So before we dive into the articles, let's take a look at what it was Trump actually had to say here so you can see it for yourself as he's answering questions in the White House just 3 hours ago. Let's go ahead and take a look at the video footage.
Products, you were mentioning a disagreement you had earlier.
We've taken in hundreds of millions of dollars in tariff money. We're going to be issuing dividends later on, somewhere prior to, probably in the middle of next year, a little bit later than that, of thousands of dollars for individuals of moderate income, middle income. We're going to pay down debt. We have a lot of money from tariffs. If we didn't have tariffs, this nation would be in serious trouble. And we've taken in tremendous amounts of money. And you know what's more important than that? We've protected our businesses from being raided like we did with the chip business. Now we're bringing them all back. But we had 100% of the chip industry, and then they left. They went mostly to Taiwan and South Korea, but mostly Taiwan. And they have almost 100%. And we're going to have, within a short period of time, a big percentage of the chip business are coming back because of tariffs, because they don't want to pay the tariffs, because the tariffs will be very steep if they don't come back, and they've committed to come back. As you probably heard, Apple is now up to $700 billion. We have NVIDIA at $600 billion. We have tremendous amounts of money pouring in. Our country has become amazing again and really, really rich again. I will say this. We have a decision we're waiting for. It's a very big decision. The numbers that we've taken in, if you talk about investments, is trillions, not with a B, not with an M, millions, but trillions of dollars. I can't imagine having to give that money back on something that we're allowed to do. And the ones that are fighting us are countries, largely. They're back in countries that have been ripping us off for years, using tariffs to rip us off. And now we're able to defend ourselves. It really is a matter of national security, because economic security is national security. So I think you're going to see another thing happening. I think you'll see food prices. They've come down very substantially since Biden. But I think you're going to see food prices coming down very substantially.
Saudi Arabia tomorrow. You're hosting.
So there you have it, you guys. So we are going to be seeing that check here middle of 2026. Now, after we saw him have this interview, he made this announcement in this press briefing here in the White House. We saw articles coming out like this. Let's see here. $2,000. Trump reveals when moderate income Americans can expect to get $2,000 tariff dividend checks. And Trump promises to send the $2,000 tariff dividend check probably the middle of next year, a little bit later. And here's another one. Let's take a look at this one coming out today. Trump says $2,000 rebate checks will come by mid-2026. Now, are you okay with that? Are you okay with them coming out in mid-2026? If you are, put yes. If you think no, put no. Let me know. I know a lot of people said they wanted to see the checks right now. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And you can see this coming out November 17th, 2025, right around 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So this just about an hour ago. President Donald Trump has given a timeline for his proposed $2,000 rebate checks from tariff revenue. His comments come after Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent confirmed that they could go out, but the proposal would need congressional approval first. Now, on Monday afternoon today, the president doubled down on his plan and gave more details about the checks. So we're starting to see more coming out on this from President Donald Trump. While answering questions in the Oval Office, Trump said Americans can expect the checks around mid-2026. We have thousands of dollars for individuals of moderate income, middle income. We are going to pay down the debt, he said to reporters. We have a lot of money from tariffs. If we didn't have tariffs, this country would be in serious trouble. Just a day prior, Bessent said that the checks would be for working families and would have an income limit. The president's latest call to send checks to the American people comes as the Supreme Court mulls whether Trump's sweeping tariffs are even legal. And you heard him say that if we lose the tariffs, if they deem that we can't do this, he said it's going to be devastating for the economy. In a hearing earlier this month, the justices sounded skeptical about Trump's administration assertion of sweeping power to declare national emergencies to justify the tariffs. Trump has bypassed Congress, which has the authority under the Constitution to levy taxes, including tariffs. Now, if the court strikes down the tariffs, the Trump administration may have to refund the tariffs to importers. In other words, we would need to pay money back to other countries, making dividend checks to American families no longer even a possibility. So this is huge, because what we're hearing is that the tariffs, they're causing prices to go up. But they're saying, well, as those prices go up, we would go ahead and give $2,000 checks back to the American people. Well, if they deem that this is not legal, essentially, all the money that would be those checks that would go to the American people, we would actually be almost sending those checks out back to the foreign countries, the tariff export, where the exports had come from. So it'd be like somebody is going to get a check. It's either going to be the American people or it's going to be foreign countries. We're going to see what the Supreme Court has to say. Now, the Treasury Secretary said Sunday that he doesn't think that the Supreme Court would rule against the tariff policy. And that's good, because as I mentioned, if the prices are going up and then that money comes and we send it overseas, well, then all we got as the American people was higher prices and nothing to combat it. He said, I don't think that this ruling is going to go against us, he said. But if it does, what's their plan for refunds? Because how is this going to get to consumers? Are they going to hand some of these imported big windfalls? I don't think the Supreme Court wants to wade into a mess like that, he added. Now, who will get Trump's $2,000 tariff rebate checks? While the Trump administration has confirmed its commitment to the president's plan, no official details have been outlined on what it could look like. Bessent said that the checks, they would be for working families and would have income limits. The president also said that the checks would be for moderate and middle income families. Still, Trump would need Congress to pass legislation to distribute the checks. As of right now, that seems like an extreme long shot. Now, in July, Republican Senator Josh Hawley introduced the American Workers Rebate Act for a stimulus check, but the idea has fallen flat among his colleagues in the Republican-controlled Congress. Several Republican senators shot down the tariff rebate check plan publicly, calling the proposal everything from a bad idea to insane. Most conservatives instead want to use any tariff revenue to pay down the massive national debt. And let me know your thoughts. Do you agree? Should they use the money to pay down the debt or to send out checks? If you'd like to see a $2,000 check, put $2,000 in the comments. If you think they should pay down the debt, put debt in the comments. Trump has boasted that trillions of dollars are coming into the U.S. from the tariffs, as you heard from the interview. But budget experts say that the math doesn't quite add up. John Rico, an analyst with the Budget Lab at Yale University, estimates that Trump's tariffs will raise $200 billion to $300 billion in annual revenue. But a $2,000 dividend, if it went all to Americans, including children, would cost around $600 billion, he says. So we're going to see here. Let me know your thoughts. Now, also, we've heard Donald Trump say that that is over the course of several years, I believe, a period of time. And you heard him say trillions. He said not billions, not millions, trillions with a T. Now, reading on, it says, it's clear that the revenue coming in would not be adequate, he said. As of September 30th, the federal government had generated $195 billion in tariff revenue. So what happened to Trump's Doge dividend checks? A lot of people were wondering about that. We had heard from Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Mr. James Fishback, actually had him here on my show, and they were talking about potential $5,000 checks that did not materialize. This isn't the first time that Trump has pushed the idea of a payout for Americans due to his policies. Now, in February, the Republican president said that he liked the idea of giving some of the savings from Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, or Doge, back to the Americans as a dividend. At the time, Trump said his administration was considering a plan in which 20% of the savings from the Doge federal budget cuts would go to U.S. citizens, and the other 20% would help pay down the national debt. The plan never materialized, and months later, Musk left the Doge office. Now, one thing that is different, though, is that back then we had heard them say, it sounds like a good idea. I like that. I support that. We're thinking about it. Trump is not using that language anymore. He is now saying, you are going to get a check. We're going to be sending out checks. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Is it different this time? Are we going to be getting a check? If you think so, put yes. If you think no, put no. Let me know your thoughts down below. Now, so there you have it, you guys. This coming out in just the past couple of hours. Actually, this in just the past hour, as he made this announcement in the White House just 3 hours ago. And we received updates also from Mr. Bessent as well, Treasury Secretary, who said that they're going to need Congress to get on board. Let's take a look at these updates so that way you can see the latest. Treasury Secretary weighs in on the $2,000 tariff dividend check. Could you get one? And I see people saying yes and no in the comments. Some people saying yes, they think we're going to get it this time. Some people saying no. President Donald Trump has said that American citizens can expect money back from the country's tariff income. Recently, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent talked about what would need to happen for people to get a cut of the funds. Could you see the money this year? Trump first said Americans will be getting a $2,000 check from tariff income in a Sunday, November 9th, Truth Social post. He said everyone but high-income earners, they will be getting the payouts. Now, Bessent said during a Fox News interview on Sunday, November the 16th, so yesterday, that checks could go out to help working families. He also clarified that the U.S. Congress would need to pass legislation to release the funds and determine how and when people could get the money. Earlier this year, Trump said his administration was considering a rebate plan, but preferred to focus on reducing the national debt. The president also said that taxpayers might get a cut of the savings from the U.S. Department of Government Efficiency. Some estimates show the rebates could cost up to twice what the U.S. brings in tariff revenue in just 1 year. The tariffs generate about $100 billion in revenue by the end of October, but a new analysis from the Nonpartisan Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget estimates the rebates, as proposed, could cost up to $600 billion. Also, the funds are pending a Supreme Court decision. Justices heard arguments about whether or not the tariffs are constitutional on November 5th. If they determine they're illegal, the government could have to refund billions of dollars to U.S.-based businesses and citizens who paid them. Now, here's what we know about the proposed tariff rebates so far. Will Americans get a $2,000 check? And when? Will you meet the income requirements in Mississippi? What happened to the DOGE checks? Well, Trump tariff rebate proposal so far. People that are against tariffs are fools. We are now the richest, most respected country in the world with almost no inflation and a record stock market price. 401ks are the highest ever. We are taking in trillions of dollars and will soon begin paying down our enormous debt. $37 trillion. Record investments in the USA, plants and factories going up all over the place. A dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people, will be paid to everyone, he posted on November 9th. So again, he is coming out and not saying he's thinking about it. He said it will be paid. The most recent report from the Labor Department shows inflation is on the rise. Stock markets have seen highs in 2025. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ set records in June. The S&P 500 has been high in November. The markets are trended upward after the government shutdown ended. Bessent said later in the day on November 9th that he hadn't spoken to Trump about the proposal in a part of an interview with George Stephanopoulos on This Week, according to ABC News reporting. Now, he said, we're going to issue a dividend to our middle-income people and lower-income people of about $2,000. Trump said this in the Oval Office on Monday, November the 10th. And we'll use the remaining tariffs to lower our debt, he added. We're going to be lowering our debt, which is a national security thing. Very similar to what we heard from him just today. Now, days later, White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt said the White House is committed to making that happen. Yes. And we are currently exploring all legal options to get it done. So the White House has said they are committed to getting these $2,000 checks out. Now, will tariff checks be paid? What has to happen? Bessent told Stephanopoulos that the funds could be issued in different formats than a check at first. It could just be a tax decrease that we are seeing on the president's agenda. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, deductibility of auto loans, he said. This was before. Then we heard him later come out and confirm, no, Trump is saying he wants it in the form of a check. On Sunday, November the 16th, yesterday, Bessent shared new information while talking to Maria Bartiromo on Fox News Sunday Morning Futures. Everything is on the table, he said, noting that larger income tax returns based on Trump administration policy changes are expected to be sent in the first quarter of 2026. He also cited a $1,000 stock market account for each child born starting in 2026 that families can apply for in July. So if you've got kids, you can also get this account for $1,000 for your children. They're saying they're going to be releasing that here soon as well. Bessent said the suggested checks would have an income limit for eligibility. Now, Bartiromo asked about the backup plan if the Supreme Court rules against these tariffs. He said the Supreme Court is unlikely to rule against the current plan because it's one of Trump's signature policies. The Treasury Secretary also called it an emergency authority and said several peace deals rely on the tariffs. Bessent said the challenge to issue the refunds could be another determining factor. So if it would definitely be a challenge if it does not pass the courts. But they're saying they believe that it will. Now, will you be getting a $2,000 tariff check? Who is going to be eligible? Well, the president hasn't yet said what constitutes a high-income earner, and eligibility requirements, they haven't been set yet. Calculations from the Committee for a Responsible Government assumed the payments would be structured like COVID-19 era economic impact payments, or EIPs, those stimulus checks. The Trump's first term, the 2020 CARES Act, arranged for payments for adults with smaller disbursements for kids. To be eligible for the maximum amount, individual taxpayers could earn up to $75,000, and it was $150,000 for joint income tax filers. Now, we had heard them mention they're thinking about a cap limit of $100,000 annual income to receive the full amount. That is what we had heard mentioned by Mr. Besant in an interview just last week. Now, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, about 18% of Mississippi residents live in poverty. The median household income in the state is around $54,915, and on average, the income for a person is $30,529. $2,000 tariff checks could cost the U.S. twice what the tariffs are currently bringing in. The Committee for a Responsible Government cautioned that $2,000 dividends sent based on CARES Act eligibility requirements could cost about $600 billion. The Trump administration reportedly says the tariffs could generate up to $300 billion per year. The group questions whether the plan is to pay the dividend once or every year, and they argue that it would prevent funds from being used to pay down the national deficit or offset other spending needs. Now, for comparison, the Tax Foundation analyzed economic stimulus payments sent out during COVID. Maximum amounts each person could get are listed. The CARES Act funding sent in March 2020 gave $1,200 to adults, $500 to qualifying dependents. The estimated total was around $292 billion. So that $1,200 check, $600 for kids, was almost $300 billion. Now, the Consolidated Appropriations Act issued a second round in December of 2020. Adults and kids got $600. The estimated cost was around $164 billion. And in March of 2021, the American Rescue Plan Act led to the final round of stimulus funds being sent in March of 2021. Adults and kids got $1,400 checks, and the total cost for that was $411 billion. So they're saying that $2,000 checks could cost a price tag roughly of about $600 billion. So can the president order that money to be sent to all Americans? Only the U.S. Congress can approve spending like reimbursement checks. So far, the $2,000 tariff checks, they have not been proposed in official legislation, but we're going to see if that changes here very soon now that the government is open. A similar bill was introduced in the U.S. Senate over the summer. Missouri Republican Senator Josh Hawley proposed that American Worker Rebate Act of 2025 in July. Oh, for some reason, I lost my article. Bear with me 1 second. Sorry about that. Sometimes it happens while we're live. If you haven't done so yet, please do me a favor and hit that like button. And I apologize for the error. Let's see if we can get back to where we were here. Just give me 1 second. All right, there we are. All right, getting back to it. Missouri Republican Senator Josh Hawley proposed the American Worker Rebate Act of 2025 back in late July. If passed, it would give $600 tariff rebates to many Americans and their children, or $2,400 for a family of four, according to The Hill. The bill was referred to the Finance Committee, but there have been no additional updates. Now, when could you get that tariff check money? Congress would have to approve the spending and determine if a check will be issued before Americans see a penny. There is no current timeline on when or if Congress might address this issue, but as I shared with you just a couple of hours ago, President Donald Trump is saying you're going to get the checks. Mid-2026 is when you might expect to see those, maybe a little bit later. Now, we had heard him say before that it was going to be coming 2026, probably the first quarter. Now they're saying middle of the year. Now, what had happened to the Doge dividend checks? Earlier in the year, Azoria investment firm CEO James Fishback pitched the concept of a Doge reimbursement check going out to taxpayers on Elon Musk's social media platform X. Fishback shared a 4-page Doge dividend proposal, saying that it should be paid only to households that pay taxes and earn above a specific income level. He said the plan was developed in about 2.5 hours before being sent to the White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles and other members of the Trump administration. Pew Research Center estimates that most citizens with an adjusted gross income of less than $30,000 effectively pay no federal income tax. Refundable credits mostly benefit those who have lower incomes. Now, at the time, the richest man in the world was leading Doge, promising large-scale government cuts that would save tens of billions. Fact checks, however, showed vastly overstated totals, and some court decisions have since reversed promised Doge cuts. The rebate check proposal relied on Doge hitting an estimated $2 trillion of savings, the goal before the checks would be considered. Now, as of Monday, November the 17th, the Doge wall of receipts claims $214 billion in savings, or about $1,329 per taxpayer. To date, Doge is approximately 1.786 trillion short of its initial savings goal, and Congress has not addressed that issue. So, man, there you have it, you guys. Updates as to where things currently stand. And we heard from Donald Trump just a little while ago where he said that you're going to be getting those checks here in, it was 2026. And let me see if I can just bring it back to where he starts answering the question for you so you can hear it once again for yourself. Let's go ahead and take a look at this video footage.
Are you ruling out going forward no more exemptions on products? You were mentioning a disagreement you had earlier.
We've taken in hundreds of millions of dollars in tariff money. We're going to be issuing dividends later on, somewhere prior to, probably in the middle of next year, a little bit later than that, of thousands of dollars for individuals of moderate income, middle income. We're going to pay down debt. We have a lot of money from tariffs. If we didn't have tariffs, this nation would be in serious trouble. And we've taken in tremendous amounts of money. And you know what's more important than that? We've protected our businesses from being raided like we did with the chip business. Now we're bringing them all back. But we had 100% of the chip industry, and then they left. They went mostly to Taiwan and South Korea, but mostly Taiwan. And they have almost 100%. And we're going to have, within a short period of time, a big percentage of the chip business are coming back because of tariffs, because they don't want to pay the tariffs, because the tariffs will be very steep if they don't come back, and they've committed to come back. As you probably heard, Apple is now up to $700 billion. We have NVIDIA at $600 billion. We have tremendous amounts of money pouring in. Our country has become amazing again, and really, really rich again. I will say this. We have a decision we're waiting for. It's a very big decision. The numbers that we've taken in, if you talk about investments, is trillions, not with a B, not with an M, millions, but trillions of dollars. I can't imagine having to give that money back on something that we're allowed to do. And the ones that are fighting us are countries, largely. They're back in countries that have been ripping us off for years, using tariffs to rip us off. And now we're able to defend ourselves. It really is a matter of national security, because economic security is national security. So I think you're going to see another thing happening. I think you'll see food prices. They've come down very substantially since Biden. But I think you're going to see food prices coming down very substantially.
Saudi Arabia, tomorrow you're hosting.
There you have it, you guys. So let me know your thoughts. That was the president about 4 hours ago now, giving that announcement in the White House that you are going to be getting a check, $2,000, likely in mid-2026. Now, we just read the articles where they said Congress has to approve this. We're going to see what's going to unfold with the tariff ruling. But right now, he is saying you're going to get a check. And we have not heard this language from him before. We had heard him say it's a good idea. They're thinking about giving the American people a little check, maybe $1,000 to $2,000. He said, I like the Doge dividend idea. But now he's saying, no, this is going to happen. This is when it's going to happen. This coming out from the president just a couple of hours ago, as he says those checks are going to be on the way. And that's why we've been seeing the articles coming out like this. Trump reveals when moderate income Americans are going to expect to get those $2,000 dividend checks. So let me know your thoughts. Do you think we're going to get a check? Drop yes or no in the comments. Hit the like button, subscribe, and as more comes out, I'll be sure to share here on the channel. Whether you get a check or not, I'll let you know, okay? So if it just turns out it's not going to happen, I'll let you know here on the channel. If the checks are going to be hitting accounts, I'll let you know here on the channel. So that is the latest, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. God bless. This is Steve.